Dell Technologies and Intel present ETRise, India on the Move, strengthening India's supply chain to power self-reliant MSMEs. Digital transformation partner, Salesforce, credit empowerment partner, TransUnion Civil, trade finance partner, Drip Capital.
Hello and welcome to this exclusive discussion on digital transformation as key for MSME growth. I'm your host, Pallavi. This session will focus on disruptions faced by micro, small and medium enterprises in the last 2 years and how they have evolved in this environment, paving the way for digitization of business processes. From implementing cloud solutions for adopting to remote workforce to leveraging database insights and analytics, the world of MSMEs has gone through a massive transformation. To understand how different digital tools and solutions are empowering businesses and helping them build operational efficiencies, I'm happy to introduce our expert panel. Mr. Amit Saluja, Senior Director and Center Head, Gandhinagar CoE, NASSCOM. Mr. Anil K Pinapala, Founder and CEO, Vivifi India. Mr. Romil Agarwal, Regional Vice President, SMB, Salesforce India. And Ms. Shweta Shetty, Partner, Deloitte India. A very warm welcome to all of you. So I would like to start the conversation with a thought. And I would request all of you to share your insights on this. While we're talking of accelerating digital transformation for MSMEs, we can still say that the significant number of MSMEs in India, they still rely on legacy infrastructure. And it won't be an exaggeration if I say that they are yet to start their digital transformation journey. So in your opinion, I'll start with Amit first and then on to the other speakers. What can be the immediate steps to ensure that they start their digital transformation in an integrated and a seamless manner? Amit.
Thanks, Pallavi. It's been a pleasure to be here at this panel discussion. Really looking forward to it. And a very, very important question to start with. So from NASSCOM, basically NASSCOM CoE, we are building an ecosystem for the digitization, which can help the MSME sector. And you raised a very right point about whether even the MSMEs has even started the digital journey or not, and which is what we have seen it. So it's been a great interaction. There has been some 150 odd SMEs which we have interacted over the last 6 months. And the situation, what we can say is this, it's not a very rosy. The majority of the MSMEs, I'm still yet to see that they have started moving forward on a digital journey. So I think what we are talking about is how do we really guide them and help them to start the things, and which is where I think since you are talking about and what should be an integrated approach for them. So there are few things which I can suggest, which definitely are a must for them at this stage. So first one I'll say is the building to some level of a digital skills. The prime reasons for them for not kickstarting the journey of digital is definitely one is the awareness. The companies, the SMEs, they are used to using all, like I'm talking more with respect to the manufacturing, because that's where kind of when we engage more with the SMEs. So from a manufacturing setup point of view, these companies are used to using all the state-of-the-art equipments, machinery in their plants, so which is there. But when it comes to how the emerging digital technologies can really help in improving this productivity, efficiency within their setup, I think that is not there. So some level of a skills needs to be there, both at a leadership level and also at their mid-management level. I think that's where only the thought process will start coming on what really can be done and how technology can be applied to bring in the benefits within their plants. So that's the first thing I think that needs to be done. Second thing is, I also see that the SMEs have not very clear understanding of where the costs are going. It is not a very deep analysis like they do that, whether at this stage my cost is going on the labor part of it, or utility is my major concerns, or my productivity is less, right? So the cost structure within them is also not clear, and that's where if there is some level of an assessment that can be done within their setup, which will help them in assessing the current level of a processes, where the costs are going, what is the maturity of the processes that we have, and also what is the current infrastructure that they have. So to start with, I think an assessment needs to be done. Post that assessment, there has to be a phased wise approach of, now if we have to say adopt certain kind of a digital solutions, then what should be the way forward, and it has to be in a phased wise approach. Like always the start has to be with the something which is low cost and easy to deploy solutions, which can bring in some immediate benefits, because then only they can start getting some confidence about how technology can help them. So I think there are a lot of standalone solutions are also available, which will help these SMEs to gain some level of an efficiency and productivity benefits. So start small, but at least every SMEs needs to start, get some level of a confidence, and then start rolling out and then lay out their plans for the future. So I think these are 3 or 4 things what I have to say just to start with.
Sure, sure. In fact, I would like to go to Anil now. Would you agree with what Amit, the way he summarized everything? And in your opinion, what are the immediate concerns or should be the priorities for MSMEs?
Yeah, I think Amit has elaborated very well. I agree with most of what he has articulated. And yeah, obviously there is a very big need for the MSMEs to kind of do the digital push, right? And to align themselves with the digital India vision that everyone across the corporate sector is working towards. And the digital India is already true in terms of the end consumer in most of the circumstances, be it Aadhaar, be it UPI. So that kind of infrastructure should now translate itself into the MSMEs. And MSMEs have an immediate need in terms of one of the major things, I'm sure Shweta will touch upon this, is the GST. Now, every MSME has, like every establishment in India has to have a GST and they all need to do GST filings on a regular basis. And the processes that are employed there would force every company to become a digital company. Now, right now, they are not there. I completely agree with Amit that they are not there. And the only small disagreement I would have with the views expressed with Amit is, I don't think most MSME ownership will be out there for an elaborate process. I mean, that kind of business process transformation that we talk about in a regular corporate environment may or may not apply to them. Their digital journey should be need driven. And one of the immediate needs that can drive them towards digital adoption is mainly giving them the impetus thing, hey, your GST filing should be something that should be completed very quickly and in a timely manner. At the same time, since I come from a credit and lending background, the way credit assessment is being done today is also transforming into mainly a digital way, especially if you want to unlock non-traditional lenders. They would require submissions to be done digitally and get approvals digitally and in a quick manner. And they're looking at both traditional and non-traditional data. And it will be mainly possible if a MSME has the digital infrastructure already in place. So I think the approach should be more need-driven. And for them to adopt, I think there are several tools. A lot of them tools are available on what is mostly a freemium model. So they can use, and that's where Amitji said that the tools are available and they need to assess and pick up what is required. But I'm just saying that it should be need driven, and a lot of these tools are available on freemium model. So they can always start free, and then depending on what they see value in, they can always move to a paid subscription. And it could start from as simple as time and attendance to GST submissions to 20 other things that we all have access. I mean, all MSMEs have access to digital tools that are available on the cloud that help make their life easy. And as long as they see the end goal, which is greater profits, greater liquidity, I think it will be easier for them to start on this journey if they haven't already started.
Sure. In fact, Romil, since Anil touched upon the cost part of it, I want to know from you, coming from you, is it more of a cost problem for these MSMEs, or is it more of an awareness issue that they have not really started? Some of them, significant number of business owners have not yet started their digital journey, or maybe they're just at the beginning of that that course. So, what are your views here?
So, Pallavi, let me let me make a couple of statements over here. This industry, the MSME, is the lifeline of the country and of a global economy, right? That's where, if you look at it, with a 19.8 CAGR that we've had in the MSME space in the past few years, there's been a significant growth, and it continues within this year post-COVID as well, right? And that is government data. Now, when we look at in terms of adoption, and I'll touch upon the cost part of it as well. When somebody is starting a business, right, there is a long-term view that they're looking at. They're not looking at a 1 quarter, 2 quarter, or 1 year, 2 year view. So whatever investments that they are making, they're not, one is that they don't look at it from an expense standpoint, they look at it from an investment standpoint. And the other part, which Anil touched upon, like there are a lot of premium models which are available, and MSMEs need to kind of take a conscious call in terms of what we need to do. See, because the bandwidth for them is limited. Their primary focus with a with a low staffed organization is also to focus on business and not on technology. So, especially when you look at manufacturing, right? They don't want to distract themselves from business. The idea is that we look at, okay, what is best for my business, and is this something which is going to scale up with me? Now, if you look at the adoption within India, and it's been pretty interesting for us when we looked at it. The 5th SMB Trends report that we've published from Salesforce, from the interactions that we've had with the SMBs in the SMB space in the past year and before, there are about 55% SMEs who started on their digital transformation journey. Now, digital transformation is a very wide term. So, between Amit and Anil, we've heard of GST, we've heard of manufacturing, we've heard of backend processes, we've heard of procurement, right? Multiple things which have come in, and all of them required a transformation at some point in time. And then there is the entire front office piece where I am interacting with my customer. I'm reaching out to my customer, pre-sales, sales, post-sales, right? There's an entire journey which then further drives my backend processes. So, if you look at it from that standpoint, there is a significant number of SMEs, and I'm talking in terms of real life data, where we are seeing it on the ground. Organizations which are 1 to 25 employee organizations are taking on a CRM journey, which is across your sales, service, and marketing, because they want to reach out. See, the trick for the survival is agility. The advantage that MSMEs has is that they do not carry a legacy with them, and they can be agile and nimble in the entire process. So when you look at that, so that is one advantage that they have because of the size of operations that they have. Second is they have the advantage of being able to pivot at any point in time when the macroeconomic indicators change. We have seen them changing in the past 2 years. We have seen them changing in the past quarter now. And as we look at a global landscape, there is a further change which is going to come in. So for any small business organization which does not have the strength and muscle and a financial backing to pump in millions of dollars into marketing campaigns, into sophisticated, large-scale deployments, etc., nimbleness and being where their customer is something which is very important. You have to allow your customer to reach out to you at the place that the customer wants to meet you, on a device that the customer wants to meet you, at at any point, any convenient time that the customer wants to meet you. So, and it could be across any channel that the customer wants to meet you, right? And that is something that we've seen MSMEs pivoting on when they are looking at from a transformation space. So coming back to the point in terms of how do we look at pivoting? Cost being one. But I think for them, survival is more critical. And that is where MSMEs are taking that, taking that step further in terms of adopting digital, if I may still use that term. But front office transformation is definitely something that we have been witnessing, because they don't want to pray and spray in terms of a marketing campaign. They want to go very, very specific, which are the customer segments or the segment of one that I want to reach out to. And that is where instead of having large, large workforce, tools which have AI embedded actually help them in terms of what are the next steps that they need to do. What are the right insights and analytics that they've had. So the past 2 years, we've seen success from anywhere being adopted as a concept, because when offices shut down, the physical workplaces shut down, MSME or large corporation, everyone moved offline, right? And they were working from home, or let me say they were working from anywhere, and they were experiencing success from anywhere. So this is something that MSMEs have adopted, and I think they continue to adopt. Obviously, the pace, as Amit said, has to increase. And that is where industry bodies which we have, like from Amit, and there are other industries body apart from NASSCOM, which need to expedite it when it comes to MSME engagement and help them in terms of real use cases and benefits.
So in fact, Shweta, you've heard the three of our panelists. I want to ask from you, how do you assess the situation? How do you assess the state of digital transformation among the Indian MSMEs?
So I think, Amit, Anil, and Romil, they've articulated the challenges and what they're seeing in the market. So from my perspective, I would look at it broadly from one standpoint, right? Which essentially is that MSMEs do not know where to start when it comes to their digital transformation journey. I think that's a challenge which it's not a mindset challenge that, whether they want to do it or no. I think it's the question about, where do I start, right? And I think it's a complicated question for them in the sense that they have to prioritize. It's not that, they're sitting on a large pool of resources and so on. So they need to prioritize. So where they start, I think is important. So, as Anil mentioned, maybe GST, accounting, automation, these are simple things to begin with. But according to me, 4-5 areas that I believe market facing and internal efficiencies, which could drive digital transformation for MSMEs. So the first one being that, streamline your supply chain, right? There are multiple ways to simplify, systemize your functions. If it's simple website development, social media, how do you leverage email marketing? These things, right? And it's the crux of your business. The second piece, I believe, is that, we talk about automation, and automation sounds flamboyant, but according to me, there is a requirement for MSMEs to look at analytics to really work towards creating that customer stickiness, to driving customer interactions in a much better manner. So I think use of analytics in a way which suits their business models. The third piece, I believe, is automation of some of your processes, right? And I wouldn't say, we're talking about a complete 360-degree transformation, but automation of processes to bring efficiencies. But one thing which is most important is improved work environment. I think that is one area where, I've seen MSMEs struggle. So I believe that, the digital transformation aspect has to touch your employee pool in a manner which brings it's a win-win situation for the customers as well as the employees. So I think that is another area that I truly believe is critical to be evaluated.
And in fact, as we move forward, we'll touch upon various aspects. But also an interesting question that I have in mind is around myths and their apprehensions. So maybe Amit, if you want to address that, are there any myths around digitization among MNCs which you feel you want to bring up here? Because this would be quite interesting to know, this aspect of digital transformation.
Absolutely, and I think in every conversations that we are having with the MSMEs, I think we talk more on the myths rather than what really needs to be done. Because what we believe is, I think if they clearly understand, like as Shweta said, the problem is what to do, where to start, how to start. It's everywhere. The problem remains the same. And there are myths. And the first one, like Shweta also hinted towards it, is basically the automation. So there's a huge disconnect between an understanding about what is the difference between automation and digitization. So in fact, like, as I said, I've been to 150 MSMEs in the last 6 months, been to almost 50 manufacturing plants, and then have understood their challenges and what they're trying to do. Most of them will go ahead and then say that, oh, look, we are digitized. right? And then when you actually go and then see their processes, everything is basically automation, not digitization. So they have state-of-the-art equipments, as I was saying earlier, all the right equipments. I mean, they have imported from the Europe, from China, and then all the machineries is there. But when we ask, oh, so where is the data? And then that's where the clueness start coming in. So so that's the one thing. Second myth basically is that from their point of view is that what they also feel is digitization means you get an ERP. So I mean, I think that's where also needs to be clear. ERP is just one element, but like when we are talking about bringing an internal efficiencies, driving resource productivity, bringing a better utilization of the resources, ERP is just one thing. There has to be the other applications also that has to be there, which gets say integrated with the ERP. Then only the real benefits of the ERP will start coming in. Just ERP and having the data right there sitting in the database will not help until some decision making is happening from the data, and then that can only happen through the application. So which is why I think we have to look beyond ERP. The other myths that I have heard is, oh, digitization, it is only for the large companies. I don't think we have that much of a budgets or money to, or the time or resources to really make that happen. So that's where, when I said earlier, there has to be a phase-wise approach of like, I think Anil also said that maybe you have to start small. We have to pick up one or two functions, one or two areas of the processes, and then start digitizing, seeing the benefits, and then you really see that how it really works. It is not like we are just kind of putting and boiling the ocean. It has to be a phase-wise approach, but we have to come out from that mindset is that digitization is there only for the small or for the large companies, and it is not there for us. The people also say that, I mean, the investments needed for the digitization is huge, which again I kind of disagree, and I'll say that's another myth that is there. I mean, imagine the, I was saying earlier, the kind of equipments, machines that they have bought, and every equipment you will ask them how much you paid for it. Oh, I paid 1 crore, 2 crore, 3. So it is all in crores that they are spending on the equipments. When it comes to the software part of it, even the few lakhs of the rupees, I mean, something which they keep thinking that it is an kind of an, it's a cost. So a understanding has to be there that the capacity expansion or the cost saving cannot just happen through, say, just buying the hardware. Software has a huge role to play. The software application has a huge role to play in driving internal efficiencies and within the setup, and that has to be seen. So I think these are the 4 or 5 things which definitely I would request every MSME to really think through. Every digital technology is there for you. Start small, but there is no other option. You have to start.
Starting should be the key here. And Anil, coming back to you, do you think digitization, this term, still scares some of the MSMEs? I mean, we're talking about myths and misconceptions. What are your views here?
Yeah, what Amit just said in terms of, there is definitely a myth that digitization is a big word, requires huge budgets. But in terms of, if you look at their most MSMEs day-to-day operations, they are already digitized to a certain extent, in the sense, especially the customer interaction part. There are people who actually send invoices or follow up for payments, everything using WhatsApp. Now, especially Romil talked about most of these companies being 1 to 25 people and really small. They're wanting to connect with their consumer. They're wanting to service their consumer. They're also wanting to get their payments. And a lot of that interaction today is happening based on a smartphone, and they will create their own small group and try. Even the intra-company communication is already happening completely in a digitized manner. Now, but at the same time, when you talk to any MSME, when we are talking about digitizing, it's absolutely right. Most of it is seen as an ERP implementation. It doesn't have to be an ERP implementation. And ERP implementation historically has come with a huge cost as seen by them, not necessarily an investment. So I think that's a big myth that is out there that needs to be conditioned with what is the reality. The reality is already most of the people are shifted to digital modes of communication, shifted to digital modes of interaction. Now it is a question of organizing it with proper software, because one of the biggest challenges whether it is automation that Mr. Amit talked about in terms of having very high investment machinery, which can give you a lot of data, or Romil referred to about the digital marketing kind of initiatives that some MSMEs which have direct to consumer interaction, or whatever I've just stated in terms of even B2B related MSMEs that are using it. All of them are already somewhere using digital tools in their journey, and it should be an enhancement of it. And the other important factor is that even though they're using a lot of automation and everything else, they still do not have a lot of data that they're looking at it. They're not deriving insights of the data. That is a very important aspect that is completely being missed out. And unless you are able to derive actionable insights from data, you will not be able to see the true value of digitization. And that's where, if you're doing a lot of communication through WhatsApp, if you're unable to see what kind of services, what kind of follow-ups you're needing to get a payment from a certain consumer, whereas others do not need any follow-ups, all of that information is only available if you're organizing that data. And unless you organize that data, so that's what I was trying to suggest, that on one end, they think digitization is too costly. On other end, they already use digital tools, but they're unable to derive the insight. And that's what the focus should be, to derive in data-driven insights so that it will enhance their profitability.
Sure. So coming to Romil now, since we're talking about the misconceptions and the problem areas, I want to ask from you, to what extent a company is digitized, and what areas and the kind of tools and solutions that they adopt. Should it depend on the scale and the size of the company? Because as we heard some examples from Amit and from Anil, that companies do spend, they do have budget issues, but they may be spending in the wrong areas and somehow ignoring the software part of it. Any views on that, Romil?
Pallavi, very interesting question. 2 seconds back, I was just thinking on this exact topic, right? If you and I were to start a company, the needs of our organization would not be very different from the way that the large organization that you or I work with are going to be any different, right? So the process from the lead to cash, the procure to pay, the entire supply chain process, employee management process would work in a similar fashion. It's just that the scale is going to be lower.
Right.
When an MSME grows into a large organization or a mid-sized organization or a large organization, there are certain complexities which will increase, because of, for example, the different taxation structure that they would get into, different EPFO guidelines that they would get into, etc., different export market regulations that they would get into. But the basic process, the underlying process, the structure of the organization and the pillars would still remain the same. So when we talk of the big myths, which Amit spoke about, which Anil spoke about, and Shweta gave beautiful insights around analytics and using insights in a previous conversation. So the 3 big myths, if I were to kind of put them in, is that SMBs see that or digitization or digital transformation, be it for any process, back office, front office, is for big businesses. That is one. Second is that it requires deep pockets. And third is that it is complex and requires extensive technical knowledge. Now, if I were to break this down based on what the previous speakers had spoken about, now, the first one, that it's meant for big businesses, is the question that you asked. It is meant for everyone. For anyone's survival, I mean, if you look at the way that MSMEs have, the ones who kind of flourished in the past couple of years, or the ones who survived, are where they have used the AI, the embedded artificial intelligence, which comes in tools to reach out through email marketing, through e-commerce, or through a targeted marketing campaign, tracking their customers and understanding what their customer needs are, and then transforming and pivoting their products and services in this entire thing. Moving from a online or a physical only to a phygital space, right, where they are operating in all channels of communication where they can interact with their customers. So those are some of the major transformations which have happened. And if 1 to 25 is a very, very small example. But if you look at, that entire 25 to 500, say, kind of a space, where the complexity of the organization starts increasing a little bit, because there will also be a CFO, there would be a procurement head, etc., which will come in to a mid-sized organization. It's the same organization which probably started as a 1 to 25, which has grown further. And what they need to look at is that, are there tools and technologies which will grow with me? So for example, and I think this is a question which got pointed out and it's come up about twice or thrice in this conversation, is that, do we boil the ocean? Do we look at adopting everything else? Or do we focus on our business or focus on what the critical elements are? And I think that is something which is very important, and we do it as part of our corporate life. There are multiple things that we do have to do. We short pick the 3 or 4 that we need to do on an immediate basis to solve the current crisis or plan for long term. Now, when we do that, for example, the way that we engage with the customer is that we talk about, if you were to look at from their consumer's standpoint, my customer's customer standpoint, what are the things that my customer or my prospect needs to do? Now, when you look at that entire customer 360 or a life cycle of a customer that they would want to track and ways of engagement that they would want to have with their customer, one side. Second is the internal employee collaboration which came about, which is very, very critical, right? So if I am an engineering and design organization, if I'm writing code or if I'm building a product, I need a constant collaboration across my teams to know what is the real-time status which is available. So, so that entire piece of employee engagement, which is there. Now, when we talk about this to our prospects, we tell them, okay, this is the art of possible. This is what you can do, but let's actually pick and choose the first critical initiative, which is important to you. And then before we start, let's baseline where we are. Okay, unless how do I measure what has been my success after adopting a technology? So what we request our customers is that let's look at what is the current baseline. And then after the go live, once we've kind of started the adoption, let's look at what is the incremental value that the technology has delivered to you over a period of time. And then let's look at bettering it every quarter on quarter kind of a thing. So that's the engagement, which is, there's a lot of handholding. There's a white glove treatment which needs to be given to MSMEs, because of the growth path that they are in. And that's what we strive to do when we engage with them. So so that's the answer in terms of that. Do MSMEs need it? Definitely need it. Is there a differentiated statement that you need to look at it? Yes, they need to start small instead of a big bang approach. But do they need to know the art of possible, what all is possible when they're choosing a platform? Yes, it's very, very important for them to understand that.
Sure. So in fact, as we move on, I want to understand from you, Shweta, can you summarize, if I say, what are the mistakes these MSMEs are making at this point in time? And in your opinion, how can they, seem to overcome these problems, these barriers, so that they realize their full potential?
Yeah, no, I think, Romil called out three myths or challenges, right? That, digital transformation is sort of like a pinch in your pocket. The second one being, I think it's only meant for large companies. I think Anil, Amit, both of them spoke about it. And lastly, that, will my organization be able to adopt it, right? We're talking about people who've traditionally worked on manual processes and so on. But, as I think about it more and more, and as Anil mentioned, a lot of this has already, we've surpassed that stage. There has been a significant jump in our digital trajectory, right? So I'll give you an example. We were doing a study on the digitization of emerging middle class. And what was beautiful in that study, what came out is that financial literacy being low, the digital literacy of the country is significantly high, right? And that really, we don't realize that, a lot of digitization has already happened. I think really leveraging on that digitization and getting it all together is where the challenge is. So I think one thing that I'd like MSMEs to consider is that, look at how money is spent and not how much money is spent, right? Where are you spending that money? I think that is important. Now, the tech experts on this panel will be able to speak about a lot of the freemium models or pay-as-you-go models, or models that platforms and models which are easy on your pocket. I think there are lots of options available. I think it's just about, as I always say, for MSMEs, it's about prioritization, and then it's all about getting it all together, right? I think that I would say is important. And lastly, we're talking about employees, but that once you give them a push on saying that, this is where we want to see our organization, adoption becomes pretty easy, right? I think there has to be a vision to look at digitization and the benefits of digitization from a long term. I think that is critical.
Right. And Amit, if I were to ask you, are there any industry-wide trends that probably you've witnessed as MSMEs seek to leverage technology and improve customer engagement, ensure sustainable growth? Any comments there? Any trends that you've witnessed?
Yeah, so I think customer engagement is every MSMEs, while they directly don't say that, but for them it is extremely important, and indirectly and everything. I mean, it is they realize that engaging customers in a better way is something which is very critical for them, and which is where I think some of the solutions that can help them. I mean, again, the SaaS application or the cloud application definitely can help some of these things. So one areas where definitely they should look forward to is basically on the supply chain system side, because that's where their interfaces facing happens with their customers also. So the supply chain right now, it is all being tracked kind of a thing manually. So investing in the supply chain system, and that's the one area where I will say it is important. Now, from an overall, digitization also will basically help in improving their customer engagement, because there will be a quick response to a customer, like whether we talk about a CRM system or whether we talk about any front-end digital systems or we talk about back-end system. If a customer needs a response or a product needs to be delivered to a customer, then the speed of execution or the speed at which you give the response to the customer is extremely important, and that's where these digital systems basically will be of help. Now, the other areas where the customer engagements, I mean, can be used is, I mean, again, if I talk from a manufacturing environment point of view, there is basically remote servicing. So a lot of these times, I mean, where we are in a situation where physically you can't even go there. If the issue happens, then you really don't have time to fix up those issues. So that's where a lot of these technology based application now can help in the remote diagnosis and the remote servicing also. So that's the other area which we feel that will improve the overall customer engagement point of view. There are AR and VR based technologies which have kind of come in, which again helps in improving the customer engagement. For example, like you could showcase your products or give a demonstration using those AR technologies to your customers who are sitting far away from you. And there are examples where there are 360-degree view of the whole facility is there, which basically can help to the MSMEs in demonstrating their capabilities to customers who are sitting in the other countries far away. So a lot of these MSMEs are doing exports, and their customers most of the times are not in India, so where their travel is not so easy. So there are systems which are there, and again, these systems, with whatever the examples that I have taken, these all systems will not cost a lot of money. I mean, these all systems will not take a lot of time to really deploy it. So, but the overall impact that it will create to the engaging with the customer, I think it will be huge. So, and I'm not saying that, I mean, all of these solutions which I have kind of and have given some examples has to be adopted right away. I mean, it's only basically you will see that what area right now it is of more priority to you, whether customer servicing is extremely critical right now, where you're spending a lot of money on the providing services to a customer, then that maybe in that case the remote servicing application could be better for you. Or in case, I mean, the speed of response is more important, then maybe ERP or those kind of solutions will be of an important to you, or similarly like supply chain. So it has to be the case by case. It has to be analyzed on what is needed. But there are plenty of examples of these applications which can help in improving the customer engagement.
Sure. In fact, I would like to ask a question from Anil here. Anil, with SaaS and cloud computing that we're talking of, can you also help us understand what is the operational impact that MSMEs can expect from these, this innovative technologies, and also if you can give us a sense of how you've leveraged tech tools and SaaS solutions with your partners in your digital transformation journey?
Yeah. See, when we're talking about using technology tools, especially cloud-based and SaaS-driven tools, we can break down it into like 2 or 3 different areas. One is customer acquisition and servicing, or customer engagement, or CRM as a whole. One is employee management, which is through the HR management software, HRMS. And then for the manufacturing sector, it will be supply chain management. But overall, for every company, the accounting piece and the finance piece is the other one. So, and it is very telling that across the spectrum, we have several cloud and SaaS-based solutions that are available for MSMEs to adopt. And for us personally, especially on the customer acquisition side, we use a lot of social media marketing, search engine marketing, and a lot of those tools are, while they may seem complex, whether using Google's AI tools or Facebook's AI tools, they're pretty easy to use. And the reason Google or Facebook and all these large corporations which have direct customers have invoked AI is that it will take away a lot of human engagement that is required to implement this. But at the same time, there are several implementation partners with whatever be the size, big or small. And Romil talked about marketing to the one. So whether you are a B2B organization or a B2C organization, you all need to reach out to your segment of customers. And it's very much possible to do it in digital marketing. And that's an area where everybody, there are a lot of tools available. When we talk about customer servicing, once more Romil referred to Salesforce and others that are all available, and that you can use to engage with the consumers. And some of these solutions, I've just taken Salesforce as an example, but there are several other marketing solutions which are available, which allow you to engage with your customers on an ongoing basis. Similarly, on HRMS, we ourselves use a cloud-based HRMS software, and there are several options available for the consumers. And from a credit standpoint, within our credit journey for the consumers, we use a e-sign provider who is a cloud-based provider. We used an account aggregator platform, which is cloud-based. So there are several things that we use which are cloud-based. Even though our own accounting and finance system is all kind of inbuilt and in-house, if you're a smaller MSME, then there are options available there too. But the other important thing is, apart from all of this, previously a lot of these seemed like significant investments because you had to invest a lot in infrastructure. But now that entire infrastructure is available in the cloud because of AWS or Google Cloud or Azure. And all of that data can be housed elsewhere in a very secure manner and can be accessed. Today, there are hardly any large corporates in India that are investing anymore into internal infrastructure, internal IT infrastructure. All the IT infrastructure is cloud-based. And when you talk to MSMEs, some of them just don't feel comfortable that their data is sitting somewhere. But the fact is, almost every organization in India today, large or small, if they are using system, most of their data is sitting in cloud. So that ownership of data, that fear of having that information sitting somewhere else is something that I've observed in my interaction when we talk to other MSMEs. But that's completely unfounded. And the fact is that almost 98% of digitized Indian organizations have a cloud infrastructure. And apart from all of this, going back to the earlier point, all of these are collecting data, are collecting information. The ability to organize this and derive insights, there are relatively fewer companies that are offering those solutions today. But with the with more and more companies, software companies leveraging AI, I think these tools, especially the business insight or business analytics tools that are required to provide more insights at a very low cost model for the MSMEs, are already out there on the market, but we will see a lot of them achieving scale and that will be able to provide those services to the MSMEs. So that's the broad spectrum of cloud and SaaS partners we have used as well as are available to most of the MSMEs.
Sure. So as we move on to the close of the program, I would like to ask a question from Romil. To be able to, achieve these business priorities, how can the ecosystem, which includes the tech solution providers, partners like Salesforce, and policymakers, of course, how can they all come together to help these MSMEs realize these goals? Your thoughts on that, Romil?
Yeah, so great question, Pallavi. And I think, as I said earlier, that it is not just about showing the vision to the customer, it is also about handholding the customer in their entire journey. And that is the customer success is one of the very, very key pillars for any adoption, because that is one thing which which ties back into our number one value, which is trust, right? Because unless the customer sees that success coming in, the customer is not going to grow on their journey with you. The government of India has been, of course, taking a lot of policy measures. NASSCOM has been working with the government of India in terms of these policy measures and coming out with cloud adoption. We've seen a lot of policy measures around cloud adoption coming in the fintech, the BFSI space, the core banking now, with the PSU banks as well. But from an MSME standpoint, the entire journey, if I were to look at it for them from if you were to look at the customer facing, the front office side of the journey, the customer service journey, choosing the right customer service channels, Anil touched upon those things in terms of, and Amit spoke about the way that we go and sell. So there is visual remote assistance, there is social commerce that we are doing. How do I kind of tie back this entire thing, which I have with my customer? Look at collaboration, which is something like, Slack, where I'm able to put in all data. And anyone who joins a channel new does not lose relevance of what has happened in the past. So I can have customer collaboration happening and an internal collaboration happening on a collaboration tool within my enterprise, right? So that becomes a repository of my data, which ties back into my front office. And later, this data, along with the post facto data, see, ERP data is post facto when it has already happened. That's an entry that I'm making, and then I'm drawing insight from him. And front office is where you are looking at a proactive engagement and insights in terms of where you want to reach out, how you want to reach out, and deciding on those kind of a forward-looking measure. Tie that data in terms of from an analytics standpoint, because ultimately, what will you do with all of this data that you are looking at, from this digital transformation? Ultimately, it has to come out in some form or the other, which aids business decision at the highest level and at a supervisory level and for people at the field as well. So those are the data insights which can be drawn in, using the right kind of tools. And the good part that you said in terms of, from a technology standpoint, what does Salesforce do in terms of helping the customers along with, while we also work with the government. But the way that the tools have been matured, there are billions of dollars which go into research and development every year. And the idea is that how do we make adoption simple? How do we make it that the entire process of implementation is based on standards and it is not based on customization? It is based on configuration and it is not based on customization. So that is what, that's how we are able to have a lot of MSMEs adopt the application, because it's easy to adopt. The other thing which is very, very important is how do we measure and are we able to measure customer success continuously? Adoption is the point that Shweta touched upon, right? So implementing is one thing but I'm able to adopt it in the right manner is something, for example, that we proactively do with our customers to see what has been the usage of the platform by our customers. And if there are dips which are significant, then the teams actually reach out to the customer to handhold and ask as to why is this happening? Is there a business change? Is there an economic environment change? Is there a business focus change? Why this is happening? And how do you kind of leverage them the tool better? So I think it's a trust-based journey. You have to handhold them. You have to make technology simple for them to adopt, not just go live. Its adoption is something which is very, very important. And then add on tools slowly to look at a full customer 360 kind of an engagement that they'll be able to drive. So.
Surely, on this note, we shall conclude the conversation, but indeed it was a very insightful conversation. Thank you for taking time out for this and being part of this panel. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pallavi. Thanks,
Thank you.
Amit.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Pallavi.
Anil.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Shweta.
Dell Technologies and Intel present ETRise, India on the Move, strengthening India's supply chain to power self-reliant MSMEs. Digital transformation partner, Salesforce, credit empowerment partner, TransUnion Civil, trade finance partner, Drip Capital.